So when you start to research headphones, every once in a while these little gems pop up. People whisper about them, they gain traction and hype, and then they become almost legendary in the forums. Headphones that for whatever reason punch way above their price point. One of these is the SHP 9500 from Philips. We're going to take a look at these today and see if they still wow for their price tag in 2019. Let's go. This video is brought to you by Bookmark.com. Bookmark's a free website builder where you can create a professional-looking website with hosting in just a couple minutes by answering 7 simple questions. Bookmark's AI engine, Ada, literally builds your website right in front of your face in less than 2 minutes, and you can edit virtually every aspect of the page once it's complete. It's awesome. Click the link in the description below or check them out at Bookmark.com. Yo, I'm Brian P. You're watching Bad Seed Tech, and today we're taking a look at the SHP 9500 over-ear open-back headphones from Philips. No relation. A brief history on these. For a few years, these were available for between $60 and $65. Then after a few really solid reviews and some internal issues at Philips, these completely disappeared from the market. When you found them, they went for as high as $200. Kind of like what we're seeing with the Fidelio X2s right now. But they've recently resurfaced. So I picked these up a couple weeks ago on Amazon, and they're available right now for right at about $80. The SHP 9500 is an over-ear, open-back dynamic headphone with 50mm drivers and a frequency response of between 6 and 35,000 hertz. These are 32 ohms with 102 dB sensitivity, which means you can drive these with pretty much anything. No amp needed. You get a steel headband here, and the rest is mostly plastic. Plastic on the headband feels nice. It's got this pretty dense foam pad that's covered in this sport mesh fiber, similar to what you'd see on a Steel series, but it's not as refined, a little rougher. This headband looks like it may be removable or replaceable, but it also feels like I might break it if I try. I also really like the inclusion of these numbered markings that are visible through this little window in the headband. If you have OCD-like tendencies, this will really help you get things lined up perfect. Plastic on the ear cups themselves doesn't feel as nice, it may be a little brittle. It's also packed with copy, just words everywhere with a giant L and R indicator on the outside of the cups, just in case you're one of those guys that still uses his fingers to tell his left from his right. The ear cups have this goofy angle to them where the rear of the cup sticks out 9mm versus the front. Good amount of swivel, little bit of tilt. The swivel point is actually at the rear of this piece, and if there's a structural weak point here, this would get my vote. This piece actually makes me a little nervous. I probably wouldn't throw these in a bag or anything without a case. The ear pads here are enormous. They measure 12 by 9.5 centimeters outside and 7.5 by 5.5 inside. Not really deep though, about 13 millimeters. My ears do touch the drivers on these. They're coated in the sport mesh fabric as well. The only fabric I've seen on a pad yet that I would describe as rough or scratchy. These pads can be completely removed carefully, but you'll need to mod these a little bit if you want to use some different pads on them. The one thing I was pretty shocked to see at this price point is a detachable cable, and not a weird exotic one either, just a standard 3.5mm. This makes it ideal for an inline mic option like a V-Moto Boom Pro. The included cable is a flexible black rubberized 3-meter cable, which is way too long for me, but you can find a ton of shorter cable options on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description for a couple I like. You also get the obligatory 1/4-inch adapter. So after the external rundown on build quality, I was not expecting these to be comfortable at all. Boy, was I wrong. And there's 3 factors that really contribute here. 1 is the angle of the ear cups. 2, these are very light. On my scale, they weigh right in the neighborhood of about 280 grams. And 3, because they're open back, they don't really care about forming a seal up against the side of your head in order to do their job, so there's a very light, almost non-existent clamping force here. I mean, just enough to stay put on your head depending on your head size. But I'm personally really sensitive to clamping force, and I'm telling you, it's not bad at all. In order to make the most of the angled ear cups for comfort, you may actually need to wear that headband a little further forward or back than you're used to. I wear mine considerably more forward than I do on the rest of my headphones. So how do they sound? I guess I should start by saying that these are the most open headphones I own. It's not even fair to say they leak sound. They play audio at about 1/3 of the volume of whatever you're listening to inside the headphone. For music, the hype is real. These sound amazing for $80. The fact that these ever cost $60 is a total mind blower. I don't generally get warm and airy from a lot of headphones, but that's how I describe these. The highs feel a bit recessed here. Not as much as on the HE4XX, but as somebody who can sometimes hear highs as harsh, these headphones will never run the risk of having harsh sounding highs, but they still present with a lot of clarity, a lot of separation, a lot of detail. If anything, I perceive these as being mid-range focused. They have a nice warmth in the low mids, and they achieve enough bottom end to make things feel very balanced. There's a shimmer you get here that runs the full spectrum of audio. Usually I only hear this in one section or another, but this thing seems to have this nice little sheen that runs across the entire mix. The vocals, particularly male vocals, are very rich and very forward. And yeah, you really don't need an amp here, but if you do feed these some power, that low end really springs to life. Bass response on these is actually pretty surprising. Now, they're not bass monsters. You're not going to get low end rumble. You're not going to get sub bass. It's pretty unrealistic to expect that from an open back headphone. But especially when amped, you're going to get more than enough bass here for the audiophile crowd. Plenty of bass for like 95% of consumers out there. Very capable for an open back set. Now, the overall level of clarity or detail is not going to be on par with something like a 6XX, but that headphone costs like 2.5 times more. And the fact that I can even draw an immediate comparison between those two says a lot here. The imaging is very solid, and the soundstage for music, decent to like pretty decent, but not mind-blowing. Last thing I'll say about music listening, over the past 2 weeks, these headphones surprise me on a track-by-track basis. There's always like one little element, one errant high cymbal, one little one-off piano flourish, one low-end hit that has a way of sneaking itself through the mix to the forefront. Overall, I'm very happy with these for music. Now for gaming, I was a little skeptical going in, so I played and played and played. Mostly like Division 2, some New Dawn, Black Ops 4. This is a very capable gaming headphone. Great imaging in game. Being able to pinpoint sounds was no issue at all. I have another budget audiophile headphone here with a great reputation for gaming, the Superlux 668B. I can tell you right now, the SHP 9500s walk all over that Superlux. Soundstage, it's definitely not the worst I own. It's not the best. It's better than most any closeback. It's better than the DT770. I like it more than the MH751. For open backs, it beats the Superlux. It beats the 6XX. This is a bold statement, but I'm gonna say it's pretty much on par, maybe slightly better than the HD58X. It's not as good as the DT990. It's not as good as the K7XX. This headphone, like the 6XX, holds the mid frequencies really close to your ears, where the rest of the mix feels very spacious and open. Now, those recessed highs I mentioned, how do they play for footsteps? I didn't have any trouble with directional audio cues. I thought I might, but a lot of it really depends on the game engine. Black Ops 4, for instance, is a really bass-heavy mix. Some of the footsteps are detected more in the mid-range than the highs. I was able to detect enemies based on sound, no sweat, but the bass was kind of a bit much on this game. I rolled off some of the low end. If your audio solution has something like a Scout or an FPS mode, use it. Far Cry New Dawn was interesting because the rustling of the brush right around me dominated the soundscape, so I brought the mids down a touch. Plenty of bass punch on the gunfire, and the environment sounded big. Tracking vehicles coming in from different directions in the distance was easy. Interesting side note here, despite having a lot of really strong external DAC amp options, I did the majority of my testing with these headphones in gaming on my Realtek onboard. Both on the case header plug, which doesn't have any additional amp whatsoever, and on the rear plug, which has 3 additional levels of power. They performed great. The overall clarity and detail was only enhanced when I went to an external option like the Creative G6, which I will be reviewing very shortly. Bottom line is, these are going to be a really strong option for pretty much every gaming scenario, with the only warning being that if you're playing in a competitive situation, these might actually have a little too much bass, which is odd to say for an open back. You may find yourself in a position where you need to EQ that low end down a little bit. Also, no issues with really long sessions, no discomfort at all, and they breathe really well, so there's no heat buildup. So wrapping up here, these are a beast for $80. You can add a V-Moda Boom Pro for like $30, and now you have a $110 gaming open back setup with spectacular music performance that doesn't need an amp, but can still benefit from one. I'm gonna preface this next statement by saying that I actually haven't heard the ATH AD500X, but I have read loads and watched loads of reviews about them. I'm gonna recommend these for anybody who doesn't have the budget for the HD58X, or who can't or doesn't want to buy from Massdrop for whatever reason. At half the price of the 58X, you're getting a ton of value for money here, and this headphone, like those, is a solid all-rounder. Again, the fact that these headphones can even be mentioned in the same sentence as open back phones that cost 2.5 times as much, the fact that these ever cost $60 in the first place is absolutely insane to me. As always, I will leave an affiliate link in the description below if you'd like to grab some for yourself. Any questions for me, hit me up in the comments. I'll do my best to answer those for you. And that's it for this time. I'm Brian P. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and until next time, stay up.